Sameach.
Chag Sameach. I feel like that's a little less familiar of a greeting, maybe, because we do it less often. But we're in the middle of the holiday of Sukkot right now, during which time it is appropriate to say Chag Sameach. So I'll try that again. Chag Sameach.
Chag Sameach.
Oh my goodness, who brought this? God bless you, Rachel Cord. And for anybody who wondered what a capo is, on the Facebook group I posted about literally 10 minutes ago, a capo is this. C-A-P-O. You put it on a guitar to change the key. If you search on Google, it's also another word for a Nazi. I didn't want that at services. Thank you for not bringing that, Rachel Court. So we say Chag Sameach, and we're in the middle of this holiday called Sukkot. And I really wish that we could be having this service in a big outdoor sukkah, surrounded by trees and leaves, a minimum of 2.5 walls, celebrating this holiday that has it has a lot of themes. But the themes we're going to kind of focus on tonight are hospitality and abundance. And hospitality and abundance, because the Torah says you're supposed to build a hut, build a sukkah, and dwell in it for 7 days. And you will be utterly joyful, the Torah says. You will be thoroughly joyful. And it's funny, because, it's kind of cold outside right now. You go outside, you try to have a meal in a sukkah, you better have a hat and gloves. But it's actually quite joyful to be out in the elements. And for those of us who have spent the last month indoors praying, we have finally made it through almost to the end of the high holiday season. But Sukkot is very much part of the high holiday season. It's not like an afterthought. It's actually maybe what the entire high holiday season is oriented toward, which is prayers for rain and prayers for the possibility of the world being in balance and being sustained throughout the winter, sort of gathering in the abundance of the season and helping that, letting that help us stay warm throughout all winter, and having what we need to be nourished and for the world to be in balance and to provide for us. So we stay outside in a sukkah, or if you don't have one big enough for all of us, we talk about it inside a building like this. And part of it too is remembering that you don't actually need that much to be joyful. You get outside, you build a little hut, you have some local trees and leaves that go on the roof. You don't make a full roof, because actually a sukkah is only kosher if you can see the stars through it. It's really not supposed to be a house. It's supposed to be, as Rabbi Alan Liu says, a parody of a house. A parody of a house that actually reminds all of us how illusory the notion of any kind of physical protection or safety is from the elements. That actually we take comfort and a sense of safety in each other, in the non-physical things. That's actually what brings us joy. And so I'm so happy in the spirit of hospitality, in the spirit of welcoming in new friends, people who have never been here before, and guests, Ushpizin. I want to say welcome to Jonathan Mendoza, who's going to be joining us tonight to share words of poetry. And I'll say more about who he is a little bit later on. Is anybody here for the first time at Mishkan? Oh, everybody from Reading University. Oh, Carroll University in Reading. Well, you're Kimberly Reading. Sorry, I always get it wrong. From Carroll University. All right, we're going to ask you to all say hello a little bit later, but just welcome to all of you who have never been here or it's been a while. And I want to teach you a little Sukkot song that you're not going to see in the Siddur. So here's the truth about Sukkot. During this holiday, because there's so much going on, there's so many themes beyond just the idea of Shabbat and rest, the tradition actually says, don't do Kabbalat Shabbat. Half of the service tonight, just don't do it. Spend most of your time eating dinner and talking to each other. But the problem is we love to sing at Mishkan, and so we didn't actually want to cut out half the service. We wanted to do a little singing. So we thought we'd do a little Sukkot singing on the front end. But because it's a holiday that only comes around once a year, and maybe the songs are a little less familiar, so I'm going to teach one. So repeat after me. V'samachta b'chagecha. שמח.
והיית אך שמח.
ושמחת בחגיך.
ושמחת בחגיך.
והיית אך שמח.
והיית אך שמח.
ושמחת בחגיך. והיית אך שמח. Try that.
ושמחת בחגיך. והיית אך שמח.
ושמחת בחגיך. והיית אך שמח.
ושמחת בחגיך. והיית
So this is the commandment from the Torah. It says, you will be rejoice in this festival, you will be utterly joyful. And that's the whole thing. Ready? Let's do it. ושמחת בחגיך, והיית אך שמח. 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 Hold on to that. Let's try it up here. ושמחת. Wait. Just drop the pick in the guitar. That's awesome. That's why I have another one right here. Yes. ושמחת בחגיך, והיית אך שמח. 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 Last time. ושמחת בחגיך, והיית אך שמח. 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 It's kind of an earworm. So one of the reasons why we're hosting Jonathan this weekend is because we're in the midst of Hispanic American Heritage Month, and many community members, unbeknownst to you, are actually from Latinx backgrounds, and very often the sort of the Ashkenazi European Jewish experience tends to predominate Jewish spaces. And as somebody from an Ashkenazi background, Ancestry.com tells me, like, literally 100%. Like, there's not even a little of me that's not that. I'm all the Ashkenazi genetic disorders, all of them. You know, I sometimes forget. I will say we sometimes don't even realize all the heritages that we are not recognizing, lifting up, noticing, celebrating in the midst of just kind of like doing the thing that is kind of mainstreamed. And so tonight we're really making an effort to elevate and lift up the identities that actually are already and always in the room. And also the music that we sometimes use that you might not even be aware of comes from Sephardic or Ladino, Moroccan, sort of other, besides Ashkenazi influences and traditions. And so there's a song to a tune that we actually usually use later in the service. You'll hear it later in the service where we do Chatzi Kaddish down during Mariv. But I wanted to teach it as the way it was written. And it's a Ladino tune called Cuando el Rey Nimrod. It has like 17 verses. We're not going to do all the verses. I thought we would just do the chorus.
Hey, Rabbi Lizzie.
Hey.
What's Ladino?
Ladino is a linguistic tradition that is a lot of Spanish and some Hebrew, spoken by many Jews of Sephardic origin, and in which a lot of tunes actually come down to us in Ladino. I feel like the one that I learned as a kid was Ocho Candelitas for Hanukkah. So this, what? In the 70s, was it? As is this one I learned. I had thought this was ancient, and actually I learned it's like 1890s, which I guess in the year 2022 it's not ancient, but it's like not the 1970s. So this one sounds like this, and for those of you who have come to Mishkan before, you may recognize it, or maybe if you're just familiar with Sephardic music. Ay, 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 the chorus. This I will teach you. The song's about Abraham, the patriarch, and it goes like this. Avram Avinu, Padre querido, Padre bendicho, luz de Israel. Avram Avinu, Padre querido, Padre bendicho, luz de Israel. Again. Avram Avinu, Padre querido, Padre bendicho, luz de Israel. Ay, 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 one last time. Ay, 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 Avram Avinu, Padre querido, Padre bendicho, luz de Israel. Avram Avinu, Padre querido, Padre bendicho, luz de Israel. So now we're sort of ensconced in our sukkah Shabbat, and we will turn to page 10 in your Siddur. For those of you here for the first time, welcome. I'm actually Rabbi Lizzie Heidemann. This is our davening team, our prayer leadership team, and Rabbi Stephen and Rabbi Dina. And you're here for the first Shabbat service we're doing on the heels of the high holidays. How was everybody's high holidays? Yes? Well, good. I'm so glad. Like, does anybody feel different in 57 to 83 yet? Really? Wait, can you, Ronan, would you say, could you characterize it for yourself? Woo! You're ready. I love that. I love that. Anybody else in 5783? Yes? Glad that you are. So glad that you are. As we go into this Psalm 92. This is where the tradition says, okay, even during the holiday of Sukkot, where you're not doing much of Kabbalat Shabbat, still start here. Start with the Psalm for Shabbat. Start with gratitude. And so we do. So we start with exactly where we are, and finding meaning and a sense of purpose and gratitude in exactly where we are. Wherever we thought we'd be right now in this moment in 5783, maybe we're there, maybe we're further along, maybe we're not exactly where we thought we'd be. But actually, here we are on Shabbat. We actually say thank you for exactly where we are, wherever that is. Mizmor, shir, shir yom HaShabbat. Mizmor, shir, shir yom HaShabbat. Mizmor, shir, shir yom HaShabbat. Mizmor, shir, shir. I'm gonna switch it up. Tov lehodot l'Adonai. Tov lehodot l'Adonai. Ulezamer l'shimcha elyon. Tov lehodot l'Adonai. Let's try it again. Tov lehodot l'Adonai. Tov lehodot l'Adonai. Ulezamer l'shimcha elyon. Tov lehodot l'Adonai. להגיד בבוקר חסדך. להגיד בבוקר חסדך. באמונתך בלילות. באמונתך בלילות. טוב להודות לאדוני. להגיד בבוקר חסדך. להגיד בבוקר חסדך. באמונתך בלילות. באמונתך בלילות. טוב להודות לאדוני. And we continue down the psalm, just a few lines. You can sing hallelujah if you want. Hallelujah. 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 You can have fun with that, or you can sing Magadlu Maasecha
Beseva Teshenim Verananim Yehiyu Lehagi Ki Yashar Adonai Tzuri Velo Avlatabo.
We're going to stand. We're going to go straight into Mariv on page 13.
Baruchu et Adonai HaMevorach
Leolam
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Leolam Vaed. You can be seated. Umavir yom umevi laila Umavdil ben yom uvein laila Adonai tzvaot shemo El chai v'kayam Tamim loch aleinu leolam vaed Baruch atah Adonai
Baruch Shemo.
Hamari v'aravi
Amen.
Page 14.
כי הם חיינו ויורך ימינו ובהם נגע יומם ולילה ואהבתך תסיר ממנו לעולמים ברוך אתה אדוני
Baruch Shemo.
אוהב עמו ישראל
Amen.
15.
Shema ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך
והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך ושינתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם להיות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך.
Continuing down through 16 and 17. You can see on 16, every time we do this Shema, there are all these prayers for rain and that the seasons come in their proper time. So much of Sukkot is praying for exactly that.
Adonai Elohechem Emet
bottom of 17.
18.
18. Thank you. What they say, 2 Jews, 3 opinions, but only one real page.
Only one
But only
page.
one actual page. It's the truth. ומלכותו ברצון קיבלו עליהם, משה ומרים ובני ישראל, לך אנו שירה, ושמחה רבה, ואמרו כולם. מי כמוך, באלים אדוני, מי כמוך, נדר בקודש, נורא תהילה, a whole row of empty seats. The Red Seas will part for you to come through. Shabbos.
Chag Sameach, everyone.
Chag Sameach.
That was better that time. Moedim l'simcha. Oh, we're throwing a third one out then, Rabbi Dina. I don't know if we're ready for that yet.
Chagim uzmanim l'sason. Sorry.
So clearly we're in the post-high holiday brain fuzz, which is very much my headspace right now, which is why when my friends and family asked me what I'm up to this week, and I said, oh, it's the holiday of Sukkot, and they're like, another holiday. That's it, right? And I'm like, well, technically next week we kind of have like another one that might be part of Sukkot, might not be, and then another one that is probably not part of Sukkot, but kind of is, and then we're done. And then we're done. Until Hanukkah, yeah. But we have like some time. We actually have some time because this is a time of year when we have all of these holidays just condensed together in such an intense way. You have Rosh Hashanah, the new year, followed by these days of repentance, of reflection, followed by Yom Kippur, this day of reflecting on our past and looking ahead toward the future self that we might want to be. And then you have like 10 seconds to maybe erect a sukkah if you have some outdoor space. And then we have Sukkot for 7 days. Then Shemini Atzeret, which is that weird one I kind of mentioned that's kind of part of Sukkot. And then Simchat Torah, we're going to dance with the Torah, and it's going to be awesome and so much fun. But it's a lot. It's a lot. And you might ask, well, why? Like, why? Why so many holidays all at once? Couldn't the rabbis have, like, postponed at least one of them just a little bit? But I actually think Sukkot, in some ways, happens at exactly the right time that it's supposed to. Because another thing I have to do with the holidays, to particularly to my friends outside the Jewish community and my family who is not Jewish, is explain to them what this holiday is all about. I'm like, well, it's this great holiday. It's about the harvest and the joy that comes from reaping all that we've sown. It is a holiday, Zman Simchatenu, the time of our joy, but we also build these temporary structures that expose us to the elements and remind us that we're fragile human beings living in a very unpredictable world. And we read from the book of Kohelet, which famously begins with all is vanity and nothing means anything. There's a duality to this holiday that's really intense, this joy and this gratitude that's paired with a sense of frailty, of not knowing what tomorrow might bring. And if you think about it, that's actually the thesis of the High Holidays. We begin with Rosh Hashanah, the new year, all of this possibility that comes with renewal, new beginnings, creation, the birthday of the world itself, reveling in all that is around us. And then we go to Yom Kippur, which talks about who will live, who will die. We don't know. We actually don't know what tomorrow might bring. And so we repair what is broken now because we might not always get another chance. And so lest you might sit on your laurels and say, okay, I've done the work, I've celebrated, and I've also repented, along comes Sukkot and says, no, now you're going to do both of them at the exact same time. That this is actually the moment we get to employ those muscles that we started building of holding both the fact that we don't know what might happen tomorrow, next hour, next minute, that life is fragile. That there are people in this room carrying illnesses seen and unseen, mourning the loss of people that you wish were here right now, thinking of those in need of healing. And so we say, yes, we recognize the fragility of life, and instead of despairing, we find space for joy together, and we sing, and we come together, and we find those little things that we might hold on to for just a moment that bring us a sense of contentment or satisfaction, that remind us that there is something worth living for, something worth praying for, something worth singing about. So we're going to go into the Hashkivenu, this prayer that is about extending a sukkah, right? A sukkah of peace, a peace that is a structure that is fragile, but also that shelters us, a wish that there is joy to be found even amidst heartbreak and sorrow, to exercise those muscles, to say that this might be the only moment we have, so we're going to lean into it. We're going to lean into it. We're going to hold each other in the abundance that we have in this space, an abundance of spirit and of love and community. So if you're thinking of somebody in need of healing, whether it's of mind, of body, or of spirit, I want you to call their names, their images to your hearts right now. And if you're maybe not thinking of anybody, look around you and extend that love, that joy, that gratitude to each and every person in this room, even if it's just the simple gratitude of being in this temporary sukkah that we built in this space together tonight. We're on page 19.
Shalom, ve'ha'amidenu malkeinu lechaim, lechaim, u'fros aleinu Sukkot Shalom מלכנו לחיים, לחיים, ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך, ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך. השיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, והעמידנו מלכנו לחיים, לחיים. ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך, ברוך אתה אדוני, הפורס סוכת שלום עלינו ועל כל עמו ישראל ועל ירושלים. Stand ושמרו. We're on 20. ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם, כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי שבת וינפש. יתגדל ויתקדש, you know this one. רבה בעלמא תברח חירותי, וימליך מלכותי. בחייך וביומך ובחיי זכור בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב וימרו. אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם ולעולמי עולמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתהלל ויתהלל. שמי תקודש בריחו לילה מכל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה נחמתה דמירן בימה וימרו. אמן. וימרו וימרו וימרו. אברהם אבינו, Padre querido, Padre bendito, luz de Israel. All right, the silent Amidah personal prayer space begins on page 21, goes through page 27. You can use the words in the book. The custom is to take 3 steps backwards, 3 steps forwards, just in your own space, facing east, and take these moments for your own personal prayer. do your own thing at your own pace. I'm on 24. Special prayer just for festivals. In the gray box on 24. People to be seated. And this is usually the moment in a service. All right, for anybody who is standing who wants to be seated, there are many seats like in this area right here and also in the back over here for anybody who wants. Yeah, take a second to find a place to get comfortable. This is the moment in the service when usually somebody shares some words of Torah because, of course, we are people of the book, and we share words of Torah. We come together because it's interesting and stimulating and important. But a very important form of Torah is somebody's life story. Life Torah, as it were, right? And it's a common thing to say, oh, a person's Torah, like Rabbi Stephen's Torah is a Torah of dignity, like almost everything he says in some way comes back to that, right? Right? And it's actually it's a powerful thing to figure out, what's my Torah? The holiday of Simchat Torah is coming up, and for many people, the Torah coming full circle is an opportunity to ask, what's my life's Torah? What's my story? And how do I tell my story through how I live, through how I talk, through how I preach, through what I speak? And so we have a guest today, in the spirit of the holiday of Sukkot, inviting people into our sukkah. Inviting people in, and so Rabbi Jonathan Mendoza. Do you want to just wear it for the night? Just take it. So Jonathan Mendoza is. Can I read your bio and embarrass you? An award-winning, Boston-bred, Chicago-based Jewish educator and Mexican-American activist, spoken word poet, social justice educator, and musician. Yes, he is. Wait, I'm not done though. You can clap. He is the National Poetry Slam Competition, 3-time award winner at the College Union Poetry Slam Invitational, and winner of the Sonia Sanchez Langston Hughes Poetry Prize. His work has been featured in HuffPost, the Boston Globe, Flama, the Poetry Foundation, and NPR. Yeah? But wait, there's more. Jonathan has organized across the United States with local and national movements around migration justice, economic justice, democratization, and policing. He currently serves as community organizer for housing justice and youth power with the Pilsen Alliance in Chicago's Lower West Side. Jonathan is a Berklee College of Music graduate with a self-designed bachelor degree in arts for social advocacy and minors in political science and spoken word poetry. It's really cool when you can go to college and you can minor in spoken word poetry. Jonathan ties the artistic to the political, the academic to the emotional, providing galvanizing content for a variety of audiences and making him a rising star in the world of spoken word poetry. Jonathan, we are so glad to have you here tonight.
Thank you so much.
And I turn the floor to you. I turn it over to you.
Sometimes when you're 6 years out of college, you forget oh yeah, I did do that. That's the thing I did. Hey everyone.
Hi.
How's it going?
Shabbos.
Good Shabbos. Let me get my thing set up here. It is such a pleasure to be here. I haven't been in this space before. So I have to admit, I have to update my bio, embarrassingly. But I'm no longer a staff member with Pilsen Alliance, but I do love them very dearly. I'm actually in Nashville, Tennessee currently, and so to be back in Chicago and be in one of my very strong roots, though I grew up in Boston, I feel like, I always say like I cut my teeth in Chicago, that's the phrase, right? But I like to say like I trimmed my bangs or something, I don't know, just change it up a little bit. I did get a haircut today, thank you for noticing. But it's just like such a pleasure to be here. I've heard so many wonderful things about MishCon, and I'm seeing it all in person live. So thank you for creating this space and inviting me in. So it seems like there's already a vibe of like communal connection and just connecting with strangers and just like loving up on each other. Do I get that sense already? Yes, beautiful, perfect. We'll make this work. So in the spirit of that, I would love for y'all to, Tennessee, there's gonna be a lot of y'all. I was there for like 2 months, it's already infected me. Turn to someone near you who you don't know super well, and I want you to, one, introduce yourself however you feel comfortable. That can be brief. And then two, I'm going to teacher mode. Two, what brings you here, right? And maybe you can invoke, are there people who bring you here, people in the space, people no longer with us, memories, is there something about this place, this space in particular that brings you back? Whatever it is, try to include detail, right? Share a little bit of yourself with that person you're meeting. The last thing I want to ask y'all, to ask each other, how do you persevere through challenging conversations? How do you persevere through challenging conversations? Okay, so pop quiz. The first question is, introduce yourself. Perfect. Second question, you got it. Third question. Wow, this section, I feel like there was a college, right? Okay, that's what it is. These college students are like, we got this. Cool, so go ahead, turn to someone you don't know super well and get started. We'll do like 3 or 4 minutes in total. My timer going, so but feel free if I 25 is great. Perfect. Okay. If you see me like going over, feel free to just do whatever you need to do to. No, I know how it goes. Yeah. To another minute and a half or so. All right, we're going to bring it back. All right. Teacher voice is coming in. There you go. I love this conversation. I love this conversation. So we're gonna keep the conversation going, but as a group. So if you can turn back away from your new best friends, I'm sorry. I love it. It's the best problem to have when people want to keep talking. Awesome, awesome. So how was meeting your new best friends? How was that? Good? Beautiful. So I want to get like a few folks to chime in with sharing back a little bit on what they talked about, but it's not going to be like a general everything they discussed, everything I discussed. Instead, I want to focus on what did you have in common, okay? What did you have in common? So that can be for any of the questions. It can be anything with your introduction, something you connected with the other person. It can be you have something similar that brings you here. Or also it can be a way that you have in common of ways that you persevere through challenging conversation. Just feel free to toss up a hand. If you had an interesting conversation, I feel like everyone did because people want to keep talking. There it is. I'll go one and then two. Go ahead. Awesome. Both committed to working on these challenging Can I ask, what does that look like for y'all? Beautiful. Yeah, I love that. I love that. So what I heard, could people hear for the most part?
Not really.
Not really? Okay. So it's okay. I'm going to try to do a little interpretation here. So being open to listening fully and not simply waiting to provide an answer, I think also carries into what you said later about not needing to ask every question, not being able to ask every question, and also that sometimes your question asking can often redirect the focus of someone's story onto yourself. So a theme I got from that was a lot of just openness to receiving someone's story, receiving someone's perspective and narrative, and that being crucial. Awesome. And how about over here? Beautiful, beautiful. Turning to others for support and outreach. Also, did you plan this matching outfit situation? That didn't come up in conversation? Oh my gosh. All right, well, you'll have to talk about that later. Awesome, awesome. Cool. So I'm gonna get into it. I think I'm gonna talk about this in a sec because I have some words written down, but I also want to share more informally. This is always a hard time of the year for me, and you'll hear in a little bit why, but given my identity and given how I grew up, particularly with regard to race, class, ethnicity, being a biracial Jew with mestizo, very low wealth father, and white upper middle class Ashkenazi mother, being in Jewish spaces had been a really big challenge for me. It continues often to this day, to be completely transparent with you. And that's a lot of what I write about. That's a lot of what I share about. And also, transparently, again, being in Jewish spaces and having developed a lot of very close, loving relationships and friendships with Palestinian friends, and that being something that makes it challenging for me in many Jewish spaces today. And so I want to be open and honest with that about y'all as I continue to share a bit more on my story. But my hope is that we can receive, and kind of like we just heard from here, and I'm sure a lot of great conversation happened elsewhere, leaning on each other for support, right? Identifying who are those loved ones in your life. Maybe they're here in this room. Maybe it's someone you can process with later that you can rely on to be someone you can speak to process something that felt challenging or difficult. And also being open to receiving. My hope is that you can all receive my story with generosity and grace. I absolutely extend the same to you, and I can't wait to dine together and hear some more about each of you all. And there will be hopefully be some moments for me to hear from you as we move forward, even with this session right now. Does that sound good with everyone? Beautiful. Love it. Love it. So it's going to be a mix. It's going to be a mix of me sharing some written words I prepared for y'all and then some of my poems. So I'll start sharing a little bit about my story. So my name is Jonathan. I am a community organizer, an educator, and as you'll hear shortly, a poet. A lot, or I'd say the bulk of my work revolves around challenging ourselves and each other with regard to our experiences, perspectives, biases, and powers and privileges we may or may not hold. Tonight, I am delighted to be able to share a bit of my narrative, including my poetry, on my experience with my identity, particularly as a biracial Latinx Jew, and stimulate an ongoing conversation about inclusive and equitable Jewish community. And transparently, my experiences relate to many moments of challenge within Jewish community regarding race, ethnicity, language, and politics. And as my therapist would be so very proud of me for uplifting, when these guttural instinctive reactions come to us when we hear about moments of challenge, maybe words, perspectives that challenge us, my hope is that we can accept these feelings in ourselves as entirely valid and not to be fought, but acknowledged, heard, and worked with. Some grounding techniques that I love employing is maybe taking some deep counted breaths, breathing in through your nose for 6 seconds, holding in your belly for 3, and then out your mouth for 3. We can practice that later. So I hope using practices like that, we can guide ourselves to just be as physically present as we can here so that we can also be mentally and spiritually open to receiving each other's narratives. So before I jump in, I want to give a huge thank you to Rebecca. Thank you so much, Rebecca, for organizing this event and for inviting me in. And of course, she's upstairs. We got clap super loud next time. It's okay. Of course, to Rabbi Lizzie and everyone here for leading us in this beautiful, beautiful service. It's such a joy to be a part of. And to all the Mishkan staff and leaders and volunteers for creating this space. And also for you, you could have chosen to be anywhere tonight, and you chose to be here, so give yourselves a little pat on the back for that. And also to the often overlooked work of the custodial and cleaning services of this building, who have maintained a beautiful, lovely space for us to be in. Now, who here has heard of a land acknowledgement, just by a show of hands? A land acknowledgement. Land acknowledgement. Okay, so kind of half and half, it seems like. So I want to offer a land acknowledgement and then just share a few words on that as well. It is a practice that originated with Aboriginal tribes in Canada that has kind of spread across other colonized places across the world. But really in this moment, it's a more somber but intentional acknowledgement to the land that we currently gather on and on the native peoples whose autonomy and sovereignty our communities often undermine in the aftermath of very tragically violent colonization that is ongoing in many ways. So we are here today on what is colonially referred to as Chicago, Illinois, formerly known as Chicago, in an area of the unceded lands of the Peoria, Miami, and Potawatomi peoples, the traditional stewards of this land. If you're coming from somewhere else, you can also go to a website that's native-land.ca. It's an amazing, amazing tool where you can identify all these anthropologists and native scholars and researchers have mapped out the former tribes that had lived in that land prior to colonization, and you can find out whose land you occupy. And I think it's really apt, especially in this moment of Sukkot, when we are often thinking about land and appreciation of the abundance that land and resources afford us, to also acknowledge the harms and complications that come with that. And so with an acknowledgement, I think it can be dangerously self-aggrandizing to only acknowledge our complicity with harm and let that be it. The metaphor I tried to stitch through here is it would be as though to steal someone's house and kick them out, and then acknowledge that you have done so without ever returning the house. So I hope that this can be acknowledgement as a first step in decolonizing and achieving a more just and liberated world that we can all happily partake in. Does that sound good? Beautiful. So I will highlight Uplift Shy Nations Youth Council. If you go to shynations.org, that's an amazing group of young people right here in Chicago, all indigenous leaders who are working on very tangible policies for how the city of Chicago and the state of Illinois can achieve equity with the native peoples that it has displaced. Also, landback.org is a wonderful, wonderful campaign to do similar work nationally. And do y'all want to hear a poem? I think it's time. I was telling Rabbi Lizzie, I was like, every time I had a new thought for what I want to share tonight, I wrote it down, and now it's 10,000 pages long. So you'll have to read the book later. Brown Boy, White Boy, after Angel Nafis and John Sands. Biracial boy in social justice seminar is asked to join a racial affinity group. People of color or white. White boy does not want to infiltrate safe space for people of color. Brown boy does not want to keep white people from having honest, constructive dialogue. Biracial boy does not know what he is. Recalls posting a survey on Facebook in middle school asking how people categorize him. That would determine his clothes, his music, how he spoke. Biracial boy wishes the skin came with an instruction manual. Brown boy tells white boy he should not identify as a person of color, that he can pass, that he should not appropriate a struggle that is not his. White boy tells brown boy that he will not identify as white, erase the brown from his blood, will not be the one who finishes the colonization of his own body. White boy visits family in Mexico, realizes he is the whitest intruder since conquistadors. Brown boy goes to white synagogue, is in the only family not invited to the dinner party. Biracial boy is welcome everywhere. Biracial boy is not welcome anywhere. Biracial boy is tug of war, but biracial boy is both sets of hands pulling at each end, and biracial boy is sorry for this poem, for taking up space. Does not know if it's his white self that's doing so, if it's even letting the brown self speak. White boy apologizes for his privilege. Brown boy resents white boy for taking up so much space with apologies. White boy says, I'm sorry. Brown boy says, you're doing it again. Brown boy hates his white, this legacy like shingles all over his face. White boy gone, but biracial boy to brown family is still white, still looks like coyote. Biracial boy is both the discolored sheep of each family and the dog that hunts it. Wishes he were purebred and not a mutt. Brown boy asks white boy what it's like not to get profiled, to go to your cousin's wedding in Arizona and feel safe. White boy goes to white barbecue, meets white cop. White cop does not know boy is biracial, starts talking immigration policy. Brown boy screams, hides inside white skin silent. White skin shield, white boy protector, white boy savior. But brown boy does not need white savior, strikes back at white self. But biracial boy during Latinx uprising does not know if he should sit down or speak up, to which army society has drafted him. Biracial boy is tug of war, but biracial boy is the rope, is frank, cannot hold his selves together. Biracial boy hates being two different selves. Recalls it's the world that made him this way, that split him in half, held oppressor and oppressed, insect and the boot, and biracial boy is both of them. I started reading half the book, so we're gonna pull a little audible. I'm gonna just share a little bit more on my story, and then we're just gonna do some poems. Is that cool? Love it, love it. So my abuelo was born in a train station in Durango, Mexico. When I would ask him of his past, he'd always remember to recount the same details. How his first crib was a wooden bench with a pile of straw. How his father, Juan Mendoza, was Wirarica and a merchant. He would travel across the region, helping manage a few small shops and businesses. It was in Zacatecas where Juan met my bisabuela, Victoria. She passed when my abuelo was young, but there were key details that remained with him. That she played music, she had pale skin, light eyes, and dark curly hair, and that her last name was some combination of Guzman and Stein. My abuelo doesn't remember the country her family came from, but he remembers her closing the blinds on Friday nights, lighting 2 candles on the center table, and muttering a small prayer in any language who's too young to know. It's the tale of many, the crypto Jews, those who held tradition and lineage in secret from the days of the Spanish Inquisition, legacies that institutionalized anti-Semitism in the formerly indigenous lands that would be colonized and termed Latin America. My abuelo carried these memories to Chihuahua, where he would meet my abuelita, and to my father, who would be born there. It was this knowledge of Jewish heritage in my father's line that enabled him to marry my mother. My mother was born in Mount Vernon, New York. Her parents were descendants of Polish and Russian Jews who settled in New York and Connecticut. The story is perhaps the more familiar one. Ashkenazi Jews who fled Eastern Europe to escape economic hardship, seek greater financial opportunity in the colonized United States, and to flee the always intensifying onslaught of pogroms, raids, carried across Eastern Europe in tandem with the politically strategic vilification and scapegoating of Jewish people. Then came me. I was born outside of Boston, raised in central Massachusetts, grew up in a white suburb of a multiracial town with white and Latinx and immigrant friends and plenty of multiracial confusion and reckoning with assimilation, but also joyous multicultural celebration. I was raised in a kosher, religiously conservative Jewish household. We made sure that tamales were of chicken only and no pork. We put cilantro and chipotle in our matzo ball soup and dipped corn tortillas that we brought home from Santa Fe. My abuelo sang a Mexican rendition of Hava Nagila for my Bubby and Zadie's wedding anniversary. And without sensationalizing or exotifying multicultural experience, I can say that the unique nature of my upbringing was at times isolating and at times celebratory, a feeling perhaps many here can resonate with. I descend from brown mestizos and white Jews. Sometimes I open Twitter and see people who look like my family being put in cages by people who look like my family. The act is the subject of a Facebook debate being had by people who look like my family. There's video of a Mexican-American woman, someone who looks like my family, speaking with an accent of someone who sounds like my family, holding a cell phone camera to the faces of a family migrating. The family has a story that sounds like my family's. The Mexican-American woman shouts at them, telling them to go back. She asks them why, if they are proud Americans, they are covering their faces. The migrating family does not reply, but I imagine they have voices that sound like my family's. They do not remove the garbs from their faces, but the skin of their hands resembles those of my family's. 30% of people who may or may not look like my family voted for a president who may or may not look like my family. At times, I see people defend this human vigilante border. These people look like both of my families. They say this is needed to prevent crime. I imagine the image appearing in their heads is of someone who looks like my family, but glossed in ink stitches, crossing with guns and killing people who look like their family. Sometimes this is the image that appears in my head too. I don't believe they've ever developed the image of someone who looks like my family being killed by someone who looks like my family in a place below this border, far away from their family. My father once said he wished for all the gangbangers to enter a great open field and to unleash their vendettas onto each other's bodies, so that we, who are not gangbangers, could live peacefully. I cannot say for certain if he remembers that they have families, and siblings, and parents, and elders, and loved ones, who may or may not look like our family. I'll share one more. While we gather to celebrate Sukkot, I recognize that we also meet shortly after the Jewish New Year, a time that for me has signified a period of reflection for my personal life and how I strive to live. I believe that through reflection, through remembrance, we can connect our ancestries and lineages of suffering and complicity to the space, time, and bodies we occupy. I remember being 8, reflecting on the rabbi's sermon during Rosh Hashanah that referenced civil rights leaders in the US and apartheid South Africa. I remember turning to my mother and stating bluntly, "That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to devote my life to justice." But despite Jewish spaces being foundational to this passion, it was these very spaces that over time came to seem so limited in their capacity to create context for reflection, to paint the broad picture of the complexities of Jewish American assimilation, white supremacy, privilege, Zionism, imperialism, classism, and complicity. I often felt alone in those spaces, ones replete with wealthy white families who I felt were so distantly removed from the struggles and experiences of friends and family, those who were first generation people of color and working class. Through remembrance of my family history and even recent and current struggles in my bloodline, I empathize so much more closely with the people being forced to migrate, being expelled from one home and then another, having their economically oppressed neighborhoods then ravaged by war. I empathize with those who are punished so wholly and severely as retribution for the actions of a few, experiences faced by many around the world who were not in these spaces or connected to them. How could I not? And as I grew older and developed awareness of global inequity and suffering that my very communities were complicit in, particularly as I became close to Palestinian people and learned of the Palestinian struggle, I became largely disconnected not only from these spaces, but from Judaism entirely. And I want to emphasize here that the focus of my activism and community organizing regarding migration and of the migrant justice movement, in my opinion, is to confront those in power who control the movement and existence of others through violence. Through this framework, migrant justice, prison abolition, gender justice, Palestinian liberation, indigenous sovereignty, and decolonization, and so much more become intrinsically linked. I consider how Arizona Sheriff Joe Arpaio's police department, the Chicago Police Department, the Israeli Defense Force, the US police, military, and immigration enforcement, and more all collude continuously to bolster these apparatuses of violence. I encourage everyone who's become stirred and passionate about social justice in recent years to dig into these connections, to organize and operate intersectionally and internationally in every imaginable way, and to know that we are often fighting the same beast, simply from many different angles. Upon remembering this, my family's experiences, hardships, and privileges through migration, the economic conditions much of my family currently endures in Mexico, where US neoliberalism, militarization, and criminalization has hindered social justice throughout the country's history, I try to root myself in causes for liberation globally. When I discovered radical Jewish spaces such as Jewish Voices for Peace, If Not Now, and many more, spaces that fully recall the interconnectedness between the freedom struggles of the Jewish diaspora with the struggles for Black, Palestinian, Indigenous, and migrant liberation, I began feeling that Judaism, my spirituality, culture, and religion could be capable of remembering our collective past in its entirety and using this remembrance as a scripture to guide our collective futures. This is what brought me back to Judaism. I'm going to share one more poem, and in summary of the rest of my book that will be available someday, I had a wonderful conversation with Rabbi Lizzie about the connection between my story and Sukkot and what it meant to have challenging conversations in this container specifically. And it was a beautiful reflection that we talked about the opportunity we're afforded by living in a period of abundance. That in celebrating the abundance of the harvest, of this gathering of food that we're going to have, of thanks to the land, this is a time when we maybe feel like we can afford to have some of those more challenging conversations where we can maybe engage with someone from a different perspective, or whether it's Jews from a different background, a racialized background, Jews like myself who felt very pushed out of Jewish spaces for a long period of my life, and with non-Jews, reckoning with race and class and Zionism in complicated and intense ways, allow us to read into different histories, into different perspectives, different narratives, have conversations with Palestinian and indigenous and Black neighbors and community members, and be able to have and carry those complicated conversations in this environment of abundance. When we're in scarcity mode all the time and we feel like I'm gonna protect me and mine and the close ones around me, that can be a really tough moment for us to have a very vulnerable conversation. Do folks agree with that? Have people been there before? I know I have, for sure. Okay. But hopefully when we enter this new year with the spirit of abundance, the sukkah is big enough for all of us, yeah? So I'd like to close with this poem reflecting a little bit on that. And yeah, let's see. This technology is such a blessing and curse. Let's see.
Same thing happened to me on Kol Nidre.
Oh yes, every time. Confessions on gratitude. My father tells me of Chihuahua, his birthplace, of women selling roses on street corners to remain alive, of children washing cars or selling mangoes with no shoes. He tells me how he came to the US when he was 10, of how lucky he was to obtain a green card from his father's new wife, how his father obtained one from his boss. He tells me of the rotting car he drove from Arizona to Boston, how lucky he was for it to not break down, how it was here where he would meet my mother, find a job, have children, how everything I am because of good luck. And I am to be grateful for my existence, sure, but sometimes I wonder if Chihuahua is the greatest exporter of good luck. Bad luck never gets anywhere. Bad luck always drowns in the Rio Grande, or shot halfway up the fence by an immigration officer. But good luck gets the affirmative action scholarship. Good luck applied for citizenship at the right time. I do not believe anyone died because they were not strong. I believe I survived because I was lucky. I'm lucky because the indigenous woman forced to bear me, staring down the eye of a Spaniard's gun, did not end herself before starting me. I'm lucky because my Jewish family fled Russia before the raids began, because my Jewish family fled Poland before the raids began, because my Jewish family fled Spain before the raids began, because my Mexican family's green cards arrived after the raids began. And I do not get to disassociate myself from those who are undocumented just because I have the fortune of being documented. I'm not joyful for good luck. Good luck implies the death of everyone who does not have it. I cannot celebrate good luck in a graveyard. I blow out the birthday candles, and each year I survive is a year someone did not. I walk to school unbombed. I go to bed undeported. I hit the bar undroned. I'm everything the ground did not bury. I want a victory out of this, but I don't know what candles to offer the ghost beside me. I want a cake, a party, balloons, a gift basket. I want it all entering the earth when they did. I am to be grateful for my existence, sure, but gratitude is a Cold War's reparation away from justice. Gratitude does not lift up the dead, does not spill the life back into a mother. I want to be alive and well and joyous, but if I knew the world like a cousin, I'd know death like a twin. There is a boy somewhere with my name, and he does not get to write this poem. I write this poem because I am not him, but here, alive, so lucky. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, Jonathan. If people want to speak with Jonathan after services, so we're having dinner upstairs. Many of you are registered to come. If you're not, I think we have some spaces available still. And inspired by you sharing your Torah, many folks in the community are actually going to share a little bit of their Torah tonight, and maybe you will too over dinner. Thank you so much for bringing your perspective, your story, and the opportunity to interrogate our own reactions and thoughts to the things that you shared, which I hope people will do tonight and for many weeks and months and years to come. And I hope this isn't the only time you visit us. We are going to stand and close out our service. Shkoyach, yeah. Do people want to give like one more round of applause? Yeah. All right, we're on page 32. עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו שחבים ומודים, לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The bottom of 32. And your heart will be turned, will be opened. Ki Adonai, Hu Ha'Elohim, Ve'Hashevota El Levavecha, Ki Havaya, Ki Ha'Elohim. One more time. Ve'Hashevota El Levavecha, Ki Adonai Hu Elohim. Bottom of 33. V'nema v'haya Adonai melech al kol haaretz. Vayom Ahu yeh Adonai echad. U'shemo echad.
We're going to do Mourner's Kaddish. On Sukkot, there's a tradition to invite in the Ushpizim, the honored guests, our ancestors who each bring something different to us, and this is our chance to do that for our own personal ancestors and our own spiritual ancestors. If you are remembering someone tonight who brought something to your life, I invite you to stand. Do you want to have names?
Sure. Is there anybody? Do you want to share who you're remembering tonight?
memories be a blessing. Mourner's Kaddish is on page 34. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
Bialma divrach hirute v'yamlich malchute. B'chayechon uvyomechon uvchaye dechol Beit Yisrael. Ba'agala uvizman kari v'imru.
Amen. Yehi shmei Rabbah mevorach leolam ulamei almaya.
Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. V'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shemei dekudsha brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tush bechata v'nechamata da'amiran bi'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru.
Amen. Yehi zichronam livracha. May their memories be blessings. Before we go, either upstairs or on your way out to a beautiful, chilly evening and Shabbat. Tomorrow, for people with little ones, we're going to be outside in Winnemac Park with a sukkah and a bunch of sukkah activities and singing. So if you have or know somebody with kids, I would say under 8 or so, it'll be a fun morning starting at 10. And then Simchat Torah, the one that Rabbi Stephen mentioned, the dancing and the mayhem and the chaos, the sort of climactic last gasp of the high holiday season, is on Monday night. And because it looks like it's going to be rather chilly, we're actually going to be inside with Jewish Reconstructionist congregation in Evanston. So we're going to truck up there. And I hope you will join us. And it'll be a lot of fun. And then the high holiday season will be over. And then it'll just be Shabbat. And for those of you who may want to do a learner's Saturday morning, Rabbi Dina will be leading one next week. And this is all website, you can see it. But if any of this sort of just jogs, you're like, oh yes, I want to go to that. Rabbi Stephen's going to be telling ghost stories the following Friday night, in advance of the deeply rooted Jewish holiday of Halloween, the one my rabbi ruined for me when I was in 7th grade. And I just want to mention a couple classes as well, because those are kind of starting up now that the high holidays are over. For those of you who may be thinking that you want to learn more about Judaism, if you are not Jewish yet, or just want either yet or don't exactly know where you're going with it, but you want to learn more, the Exploring Judaism class is starting in November. And now is the time to talk to Rabbi Stephen about getting into it if you're interested. Rabbi Dina is starting a class called The Spiritual Power of Kvetching. Kvetching, The Spiritual Power of Kvetching, a.k.a. reading the book of Jeremiah, who's like a master prophetic kvetcher. And so that's going to be during the day on Thursdays. And then finally, Jonathan is going to be doing just a one-time class on Mishkanites of multiracial identities. And that is in November? So in a couple weeks. So if that is interesting to you, you can ask Jonathan more about it or just look for it online. I think I'll stop there. Shall we stand and bless the food so that we can just go upstairs and chow down? Yes. No, Rabbi Dina, do the whole full festival kiddush. Oh, and we got challah from Masa Madre, Mexican Jewish bakery in Chicago.
God,
all right.
It's disappeared. I don't know where it went.
Yeah, we don't know where the challah is, but Dina's going to do kiddush. All right. If people want to join with you, what page is it on?
It's on page 31, and it's a long one, y'all, and it's a lot of words.
All right.
So buckle up.
Lead us.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei pri hagafen.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol am, v'ramamanu mikol lashon, v'kiddeshanu b'mitzvotav, v'titin lanu Adonai Eloheinu et b'yahava, Shabbatot limnucha, u'moadim l'simcha, chagim uzmanim l'sason, et yom chag ha-Shabbat hazeh, v'et yom chag ha-Sukkot hazeh, zman simchatenu, b'ahava mikra kodesh, zecher l'tziat Mitzrayim, Kivanu v'achar, taviotanu kidashtem mikol ha'amim, Shabbat u'mordei kodechecha, b'ahava v'ratzon, b'simcha uv'sason inchaltanu, Baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh ha-Shabbat v'Yisrael v'hazmanihim.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, shehechianu v'kiyamanu v'higianu l'zman hazeh.
Amen. Whoa, those are so pretty.
They're so pretty.
Oh my God. So here's the thing about this challah board. Once we take from it and we pass it, take one and then pass the board. Don't hoard the board, pass the board, and then everybody gets some challah. Okay. Go for it.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam
Motzi
hamotzi
lechem min haaretz.
Amen.
Shabbat shalom and Chag Sameach. See you upstairs.
Thank you. For the second time in a row, I take a greater size golf.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Yasharei, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech, Malachei Amelachim, Hakadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Yasharei, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech, Malachei Amelachim, Hakadosh Baruch Hu. Ay, 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 Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Yasharei, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech, Malachei Hamelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem l'shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech, Malachei Hamelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu ni l'shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech, Malachei Hamelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzedchem l'shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech, Malachei Hamelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Yanalai, 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 Good Shabbos, and thank you. Thank you. See you upstairs.